What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 5 of Demon Slayer season 3. Going full spoilers ahead, so hopefully you watch this episode. We're going to do a real quick recap. All right, so, Tokido and Kotetsu run into and save Tokido's swordsmith, who says that he has his sword ready for him at some shed. They head to, on the way there, they run into the pot demon, who heads them off. And then, we split from there and go to, I think it was Tanjiro and Nezuko. Nezuko picks up Tanjiro, and she is running him out of the building because he's injured. The demons pursue them and inevitably blow up the building. We also get a scene too with the swordsmiths who are getting murdered by the fish monsters. In the last review I said frog. Close, I guess, not really. The fish monsters are murdering everybody, and the Love Hashira shows up and just kind of waves her bendy blade and kills all the fish monsters, heading to where the chief's at, where there is a mega fish monster that is trying to kill the chief of the swordsmith village. She is able to dispatch it pretty easily by cutting off all of its pots in a really cool audio video way that they did it. She kind of waves it around and goes "Tuk-tuk-tuk," and it just took him out. So she saves the chief. Then we spend some time with Tokido and Kotetsu again, finding out a little bit more about this higher rank demon who lives in pots and apparently summons things in pots. He calls it his art. He takes pride in what he creates, and the thing that he displays for them first is a bunch of I think they're dead, or at least
it's hard to say.
Severely damaged,
creating their death throws, basically.
Yeah. So. It's essentially a piece of it's just all of them with swords in them, dead, and he's explaining it. Tokido, being Tokido, isn't too interested in what he has to say, so he attacks the demon. The demon then shows him that he's able to teleport from pot to pot, and is upset that he interrupted his description of his piece. So he pulls out some pots, summons some fish. There's a lot of fish things going on here, and they shoot needles at Kotetsu and the other guy, I forgot his name, the other swordsmith. Tokido tanks the needles while deflecting many with a sword. He takes some to his face, which is kind of gnarly. Tells Kotetsu and the other guy they need to get out of there because they're becoming a liability. They understand. They run after witnessing the crazy display of their fellow swordsmiths. That was kind of crazy. The whole time Kotetsu's just crying. He's like, "Oh, this is fucked up." That was interesting too. You see it coming out of his mask. I was like, that's fun. Not really fun. I guess it's a fun way they did the animation. So they talk for a split second. Tokido has a flashback on something that he says that he remembers from somebody saying something to him before. So we are getting little chunks of his past unlocked through this dialogue, and kind of interesting that something this guy's saying is bringing back things from his past. So this guy might have a connection to him, which would be weird. So he ends up attacking the demon again, cuts off one of his little strong hands, and he casts some kind of water bubble on him and is planning on suffocating him. Tokido tries to cut the water from the inside to get out, but he's unable to slash it. So apparently he's just going to drown in there. I doubt it, but we'll find out. So then we go back to the destruction that Tanjiro's getting used to from last season of a big building they were in. Nezuko's pinned under some rubble, and Tanjiro's trying to help her out. When they were flying, she had grabbed his sword to kind of keep them together, and at that point it cut her fingers. He's trying to get her to let go. She is very determined to keep a grip on the blade, and she is essentially imbuing the blade with her blood and igniting it, creating a fire sword that Tanjiro's very quick to adopt. Names it and everything. He's like, all right, I got a exploding blade sword now.
It's from inherited memories.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny how quick he's like, all right, this is what I got.
Yeah.
And then, he goes out there where the demons are looking for him. Most of them are just like, oh, you got a cheap trick. Fuck it. We'll still kick your ass. But the one that seems like he's kind of in charge, the staff guy, recognizes the flaming sword from somebody in the past. Somebody Tanjiro also is having these weird memories of. The samurai who looks very similar to the top-ranked demon, who I guess also had some kind of flaming sword. And then we're treated to a very high-budget attack from Tanjiro, where he flies through, cuts a bunch of heads off with flames. The whole thing's just animated fantastic. I was just like, holy shit, dude. Takes off all their heads, and it was crazy. Then he knows that there's one left. He goes to take care of that one. As he goes forth, though, he realizes its head's been taken off. It stabbed Genya, because Genya likes to get stabbed, but he's holding its head. So something happened during this combat, and as Tanjiro approaches Genya to see if he's okay, Genya turns and looks very demonic with black eyes and veins popping out of his face. Tanjiro is like, yeah, that's not right. You don't look correct. So we'll find out next episode the secret behind Genya, I assume. And then, at the very end of the episode, we get treated to over and over and over again. Is her name maybe Raji? I don't remember. We'll find out in the next episode once I get more familiar. But the Love Hashira is able to sheath her weapon, which seems almost impossible, but she did it 3 times in front of Tanjiro and Nezuko. So that's a lot of fun. I also thought her weapon, and we'll talk about it, was interesting because it reminds me of that sword out of like ancient India that is like a long, thinly cut piece of metal that you just wave around. So that's kind of interesting. What do we think?
It was a good episode.
Another banger.
I like how we keep just getting a little bit more and more from everybody.
Yeah. They're handling a lot of characters really well.
Yeah. Like you said, when the Love Hashira fought the 4-potted fish and kind of did that dash through.
The master fish.
The sound effects were crazy sounding when the attack was going off. Though she did the very typical, like, let me pose and give it a name thing, which, is always fun in anime.
She said her heart would never flutter for somebody who does bad stuff.
Something like that, yeah.
I was like, that's kind of cheesy, but it's fine.
Yeah. The Miss Tashira's fight as well is interesting that he was sitting there listening, but anytime the demon was inherently or more like blatantly being disrespectful towards human life, basically, it would like piss him off, and he would tell him to shut up and attack him. Which is
I just got from it that the guy was just talking too long. He's not there to have the conversation with him, so he's just like, okay, and then he sort of would swing at him, and then he's learning things from him, and obviously the guy's evil, so he's like, whoa, I'm trying to explain some dumb shit to you. So.
Yeah, and the way they transition from like the background to the mist is always really good looking. They have a really good eye for like just style in the show. It's crazy. The teleporting to pots thing, even the Miss Tashira has asked, like, how the hell does that work? Obviously it's a mystery for us right now. But it seems like he can just kind of escape and create pots wherever he wants, type of deal. So
yeah, he's spawning pots and he's teleporting to them. So it's like an endless
chase
portal system he's got going on.
So I'm curious how that works, because the show's pretty good about explaining people's powers eventually.
They'll explain it at some point.
Yeah.
We'll know everything about it.
And then also him being trapped in the bubble after receiving all those needles in the face, which was really gross looking.
Yeah. Also worth mentioning, they're poisoned.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be numb.
As we've seen from Hashira before, it probably handle it pretty well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the yeah, the tricky bit being in the bubble because, as the demon mentioned, they use breathing techniques to do all their attacks and can't breathe underwater. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets out of that. And then Tenjiro, and Nezuko's ultimate attack there was some fantastic eye candy. I definitely was very immersed at that moment. So, I mean, stuff like that's why I watch anime. So,
as soon as the sword lit up and I was looking at the animation of the fire, I'm like, budget. This is gonna be money, baby.
yeah, it was wild watching him just go from person to person. The way they handled like angles and stuff like that too during that, I don't know, it was really well done.
Everything, dude. Like every swing of the fire, like watching the heads get sliced, and then when he gets past them, the line that cut through all of them, like it was perfect.
Yeah, it was really good. And then even when he was done, his sword is now red. So I wonder if that's just permanent now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he still has a sword being made for him. So I'm trying to figure out where this guy.
I don't even know if he's gonna get it though, because he's using this ancient sword, isn't he? Is that the sword he's using, or
The rusted one?
Yeah.
It's being repaired.
Oh, it's being repaired.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to
I
take 3
forgot,
days. This is the first night. So
Yeah. Well, she can just do that to that sword then.
Well, if it conveniently works that way, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was a pretty straightforward episode. I'm also curious, it seems like the other guy's turning into a demon, and with the title of the next episode, I think it implies that as well. So,
What was the title?
I thought you were going to become a Hashira.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a feeling it's going to be Tanjiro pleading to this guy.
Yeah. What if he's a demon, but he's able to fight that off? So he uses it to heal and stuff, but he's using those chants and stuff to ward it off.
So like he's like Nezuko in a way.
Yeah. What if he's like a hybrid?
I mean, maybe. The show has shown that that kind of stuff can happen. So.
Yeah. It's like he lost control or something. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. Or maybe this is the explanation on where maybe that demon took over his body. Like,
yeah, maybe
all my bodies are dead, and I'm going to take this guy's body type of thing.
Yeah, that's possible.
We'll see. I'm very curious to see.
Yeah, because I'm like, there's no way you just beat that guy, unless they're going to do another like half season of this and then another arc.
Well, and they could be hiding something in all this advertising. There could be like, a third, the pretty boy, the fucking. I doubt the punchy guy. I can't remember his name. The number 3 though. I doubt he'll show up because
Akaza.
Yeah, there was a huge head butting at the end of the Mugen Train. I feel like that'll be its own thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be its own arc.
Yeah, but we'll see. Obviously, we don't know how it's gonna end. I didn't expect him to show up at the end of Mugen Train. So
yeah, yeah, true.
Show's good at throwing curveballs for sure. I could have swore this episode was gonna be mostly about the Lovely Shira, and she was barely in it. So
yeah, we just got to see her bendy blade people
dance. Basically, she danced around. Yeah, and then
which is cool looking.
The end of credit scene was a lot of fun as always. So they're good at the way they do humor. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when she ran through and did that at first I was like, is she dual wielding? Is she just that quick with the sword? What's going on there? Why didn't anybody else just do that? Like, why don't they just go through kind of go? But yeah, once you find out that it's like this bendable blade, she's just swinging around like a whip. I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. And a cool choice. I'm definitely into like chain swords and blades and stuff like that, so it's a cool thing to see. We'll see more, I'm sure. I'm curious about how it's going to work when she fights somebody who's a little more higher up in power,
especially because implied in the intro she's going to fight the little Oni dude.
The little Oni dude,
the not the pot guy but the other guy.
Oh yeah, we'll see. We'll find out. But yeah, this is another solid episode. It's really good. It's still quite Royal Rumble like the last episode, but there's a little more going on. There's a little more time to think about stuff happening, especially with Tokido and the pot guy, because we need to know more about him. So we got to find out a little bit about his personality. He's sadistic, but he fancies himself an artist, so you have to kind of battle that. Reminds me of the dude in Evil Thin 2, making his art. So that was interesting. It's also interesting kind of unraveling Tokido as a character. So I've been enjoying that. that fight is really weird though, because like we haven't really seen Tokyo like unleashed yet. He's just taking strikes. Every time we see him fight something, he's just boom, hit something, hit something, hit something while evaluating things.
Yeah, all precision.
So yeah, so we don't know what he's really capable of still. But you know, we're seeing it come. I feel like there's going to be like a moment where he remembers his past and is going to make him more powerful or something.
Also gets his actual sword because this one's busted.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But yeah, the pot demon, I hate him in a good way. He's a good villain.
When he was like getting pissed off and his little fucking head arms were flexing, I was like, ew, dude.
Yeah, he's just overall gross. His design is gross, and yeah, he's definitely a character worth disliking. Unlike the other guy who's just groveling around, I'm like, it's pathetic. But now he turned into like a whole army. So
yeah,
and I think they're interesting. So yeah, so that fight's cool. It's fucked up what's happening to Tokyo, but we'll see where that goes. That he's just getting needles in his face. I wasn't expecting that, especially with a guy who's cool, calm, and collected. In fights, seeing him take facial damage, I'm like, oh, okay, he's not infallible. That's good.
Yeah.
I expect him to be, but they're very quick to just be like, oh, here's some needles in his face. Also makes sense as a catalyst too to finally get the swordsmiths out of there, so they won't be a target anymore, and they can just fight. And I'm also curious to see how he gets out of the water, because that's kind of a fuck little trick to just put somebody in water and let them drown. Yeah, another part that was very well animated was Nezuko running with Tanjiro out of the building while she's dodging all the lightning. Very, really very cool looking. I think it's also an interesting thing we've seen since last season and this season, the retreat. We're seeing in combat, when it gets too hectic, people just running, which makes sense. Even Akaza ran because it was getting light out, so it's just interesting to see people retreating.
Like for sure.
Yeah, in combat. A lot of anime shows in general don't do stuff like that. So, which gave them the opportunity to create the almighty fire sword, which was very awesome. That scene was just worth the episode alone. And yeah, I'm curious about the future of that. Is that just like a now thing? Is that the sword thing? What happens when he gets a new sword? They just kind of go, hey, I need a jar of your blood again, and just dip it in there. Yeah. But yeah, very cool. Very interesting. It's interesting to see his scarring or whatever turn into like flames down his face even further. Is it scarring or is it birthmark? I forgot.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got something else for it.
It also changes back when he's not doing that breathing. So
yeah. Well, in last season too, when he's going crazy, it was getting crazier.
Yeah.
And his eyes are all nuts. Tanjiro's got a lot of repressed feelings that come out, and he goes crazy. The love of Shira. She's cool. I don't know much about her yet, but I like her weapon. The combat has just been flashy so far, just showing off how she can take people out. But I really want to see how she does in like a one-on-one fight with somebody who's more powerful.
An actual even match instead of small fry.
Yeah. And I feel bad for all the swordsmiths because they're just getting murdered or being used as art projects, which is fucked up.
Yeah, that was disturbing.
I also this episode kind of is allowing us to have a structure that's very anime, where if people are doing this well in combat already and they don't even have their swords they need, they're like good swords, that means the demons got to up their game too, because once they get those swords, they're going to be like more powerful, they're going to cut better, all that stuff.
The only person who has their sword, she just got it, was the Love Ashura.
Yeah, Tokyo hasn't gotten a sword. It's in the shed.
Yeah.
So it's close by. And then Tanjiro doesn't have his ancient sword yet, but he has a fire sword. Doesn't fucking matter, I guess. But yeah, super solid episode. This season is great so far. They've all been great, but this one is just awesome too. And I'm really enjoying it. And the worst part about it is I want to see next episode, so I have to wait a week.
Sunday.
Yeah, but it's nice watching something where I'm like, oh man, I don't want that to stop. So, yeah, really good. Really enjoying it. Anything else?
No.
All right, let us know what you guys thought of episode 5, I hope. What'd you like about it? What stood out to you? What do you think about Tanjiro's crazy fire sword? What do you think about what's happening to Tokido? How does Katetsu cry out of his mask? And what do you think about the love of Shira and her weapon? Let me know everything you think about in the comments below. And yeah, I've been Seth, this has been Chevy. stay tuned until the next review, which will be at the very latest next weekend, unless something else comes out. We are also watching, without doing episodic reviews of, what is that, Heavenly Delusion? We watched 2 episodes of that so far. If you want to know, I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, we might do like a season review of that. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. But yeah, until the next episode, have a good one, guys, and we'll talk to you later.